Welcome to Tokyo Wave, recorded in a live studio in Harajuku, Japan, with your hosts Aaron and Parker. All right, everyone, welcome to episode 34 of Tokyo Wave. We're your hosts, Aaron Randall
and Parker Allen. This week, we are joined by a special guest, Jesse Franklin. Jesse Franklin is an award-winning CGI artist, animator, and creative director.
On Tokyo Wave, we bring you weekly updates from our studio in Harajuku.
Join us in segments featuring this week's top news,
political happenings,
business,
and other random garbage.
Here are this week's top news highlights.
Japan mulls exempting Olympic and Paralympic fans from abroad from 14-day quarantine.
In First Call, Biden tells Suga the United States will defend the Senkakus under the US-Japan Security Treaty.
Sony's PlayStation 5 goes on sale and pre-orders overwhelm supply. This week in Japan.
All right, here's our first top news item for this week.
Japan mulls exempting Olympic and Paralympic fans from abroad from 14-day quarantine.
The Mainichi has reported that the Japanese government is considering exempting spectators of the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games from overseas from a 14-day quarantine period upon their arrival in Japan next summer, easing measures normally required to curb the spread of the novel coronavirus.
The government made the proposal at a meeting for coordinating novel coronavirus countermeasures held at the Prime Minister's office in Tokyo on November 12th. The meeting was attended by officials from the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, the Tokyo Organizing Committee of the Olympic and Paralympic Games, and other parties.
While those entering Japan from overseas are currently generally required to undergo 14 days of quarantine as part of measures to prevent the spread of coronavirus, the government is looking into relaxing the policy for Tokyo Games spectators from abroad. The government will finalize specific measures to ease the regulations by spring 2021 in light of infection statuses both at home and overseas.
If Olympic and Paralympic fans from abroad are required to quarantine themselves and refrain from using public transport systems for 2 weeks, it would effectively become difficult for them to watch games at venues in Tokyo and other prefectures. For this reason, the government will look into relaxing the requirements on condition that the spectators entering Japan are tested for the coronavirus before they leave their home countries and regions and upon arrival in Japan, and that they manage their own health and behavior during their stay here.
Well, this sounds like a disaster waiting to happen.
I mean, we're obviously hoping that, the games go as planned, but if there's just all this red tape on it for everyone coming here.
Yeah, and it's really tough to sell this right now because it looks like Japan might be entering a third wave of infections as we speak.
Right. And just every other country besides those in APAC and East Asia right now are just seeing an explosion in coronavirus numbers, right?
So Pfizer, hurry up with that vaccine. We're dying over here. Literally.
Up next, in First Call, Biden tells Suga the U.S. will defend the Senkakus under U.S.-Japan Security Treaty.
Kyodo News has reported that the U.S. President-elect, can I say that yet? Joe Biden, on Thursday assured Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga that Washington will help defend a group of Japan-administered islets in the East China Sea under a bilateral security treaty.
The comments on the Senkaku Islands drew a swift rebuke from Beijing, which claims them as its own territory.
Holding phone talks for the first time, Suga and Biden agreed to strengthen their country's alliance, with the Prime Minister congratulating Biden on winning last week's election against incumbent President Donald Trump and conveying his desire to cooperate to realize a free and open Indo-Pacific region.
Suga told reporters following the roughly 10-minute conversation, "The alliance is crucial amid the increasingly difficult security environment surrounding Japan, as well as for the peace and prosperity of the international community."
Biden underscored his deep commitment to the defense of Japan and U.S. commitments under Article 5, and specifically mentioned the disputed islets as the Senkakus, which China calls Daoyu.
So the clause in the 1960 Japan-US Security Treaty obligates Washington to respond to armed attacks on territories under Japan's administration. This includes the Senkakus.
Yes.
Roughly 55,000 American troops are stationed in the country, ready to respond to contingencies in the region.
Biden's comments drew backlash from Beijing, with Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin calling the islands China's inherent territory. The security treaty is, by his explanation, a product of the Cold War that should not harm the interests of third parties and endanger regional peace and stability.
Biden served for 8 years as vice president under Barack Obama, who in 2014 became the first U.S. president to publicly state that the Senkakus were covered by Article 5.
Suga is seen to be eager to establish a relationship with Biden, who will become commander-in-chief of Japan's key security ally at a time of growing Chinese maritime assertiveness and concerns over North Korea's nuclear weapons program.
Who would want that job?
Ugh.
The prime minister said he asked for support for Japan's efforts to retrieve citizens abducted by North Korean agents in the 1970s and 1980s.
Yeah, that's an issue that people have been talking about in Japan perennially, because that continues to be one of the key question issues. And North Korea's chairman Kim Jong-un constantly says that the issue has been solved, although they haven't come back.
Right. And this is an issue that catches a lot of Americans and other Westerners off guard because they're not really aware of this problem. I saw a headline that Suga was asking Biden about this. I can imagine maybe Biden and his team, or any really Western, leader in his team being like, wait, what?
Yeah. Well, thankfully, before these calls, you have policy teams to brief you on these things. And I'm sure that Biden has been briefed on it and has probably heard about it, in his 8 years serving under Obama.
Right.
And, it's a perennial issue, and an issue which Japan is very passionate about, because those are Japanese people who got abducted. And, until they come home, the issue hasn't been solved. Talking to reporters, Suga said the two also agreed to work together to tackle global issues, including COVID-19 and climate change.
Biden has vowed to bring the United States back into the Paris Agreement on curbing greenhouse gas emissions, and he and Suga are both aiming to make their countries carbon neutral by 2050.
Suga said that he agreed with Biden to meet in person as soon as possible, with government sources saying the prime minister is likely to visit the United States after the president-elect takes office on January 20th of next year. Not the best time to visit America, though. I heard there's this thing called the Rona circulating around, especially in Washington, D.C., apparently.
Yeah. But it's great to see, these world leaders acknowledge Biden's victory, and that we have that kind of reassurance from the international community. Save some few authoritarian leaders.
Yeah, maybe Duterte is waiting for those court cases to pan out.
And up next, Sony's PlayStation 5 goes on sale and pre-orders overwhelm supply.
The Mainichi has also reported that Sony Interactive Entertainment started selling its next-generation PlayStation 5 video game console in Japan on Thursday, with pre-orders received by retailers since September overwhelming supply.
The game unit of Sony Corporation touts the new console's data processing capacity, saying it is 100 times faster than the PS4. Man, I just got a PS4. Its predecessor launched in February 2014. The company also said the new console has advanced audio technology.
Well, at least your PS4 is 100th as fast as the PS5.
That's ridiculous.
Wow. So the PS5's launch comes just after the release of rival Xbox Series X from Microsoft.
Sony also launched the device in some other major markets, including Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea on Thursday, with about 20 software titles. While the rollout in the rest of the world, such as Europe and South America, is scheduled on November 19th.
You know, on the Xbox just tweeted that this is a public service announcement. Please do not blow vape smoke into your Xbox Series X. I guess that says something about most Xbox owners.
I know. I mean, I hate to take sides, but I haven't heard anything about the Xbox. I've only been seeing stuff about PlayStation in my social media feeds. So
maybe there's a new version of Halo or something.
Yeah.
The PS5 with an Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive is priced at 49,980 yen, and the digital version without a disc drive is sold for 39,980 yen.
In Japan, electronics retail chain Nojima Corporation was swamped with orders, receiving more than 100 times as many as it planned to sell via its online reservation system. Major auction sites already have a number of listings for the new console with prices set well above what the system retails for.
If you want a good laugh, just get on the Mercari app and you can see these ridiculously expensive PS5s up for sale.
Yeah.
It's like ticket scalping, but with video game consoles. Should have done that pre-order. Shucks. So in the past, shoppers lined up at stores on the console's release day, and it became somewhat of an event or pageantry, but the PS5 will only be available through online reservations for the time being due to the pandemic.
Sony launched the first PlayStation in 1994. The PS2, introduced in 2000 with a built-in DVD player, was a global success and recorded worldwide sales of about 155 million units.
I'll never forget the PS2 because when the PS2 had just come out, my friend was having a birthday party and I didn't have the PS2 yet, but I was able to rent it at Blockbuster.
Oh, you could rent systems?
It was so expensive. It was probably like $100. It was ridiculous. And so I rented a PS2 and I brought it over to my friend's birthday party and I was so stoked. We were going to play all these brand new games. It was going to be awesome. I was going to be elected best friend ever. And it was all set up and I brought it over to my friend's house and his mom saw it and he said,
"You're not gonna play that silly video game at this party. We want you to play outside."
and she took it from me.
Oh, man.
I have never wanted to murder someone so badly in my entire life.
That sucks. That's crazy. I didn't know you could rent systems from Blockbuster.
Yeah, that was, blast from the past. Blockbuster has gone bankrupt since then, but
Yeah. Maybe they didn't have that in Florida, unfortunately.
yeah. Well, to that random friend's mom, and I'm sorry for ripping your entire house apart looking for that PS2, but actually I'm not sorry. Never found it. I probably owe millions of dollars in late fees now.
Up next, we have a special interview with Jesse Franklin, an award-winning CGI artist, animator, and creative director.
You're now listening to Tokyo Wave.
Jesse, thanks so much for coming on Tokyo Wave.
Thank you so much for having me.
Since the early 2000s, Jesse has worked as a creative with extensive experience as a CGI artist. He has worked on over 1,000 commercials in the United States and Japan.
Jesse's work has included Emmy Award winners and MTV Video Music Award winning music videos. He has worked with recording artists including Justin Timberlake, Gnarls Barkley, Beck, and Metallica.
Jesse has done commercial work with top brands including Nike, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Disney, Sony, and Sega.
Spending his time between Japan and the United States, Jesse is currently working with a major global tech company as an editor and producer.
Jesse holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the Otis College of Art and Design in California.
So, Jesse, thank you once again for taking the time today to be on our show.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you have a very impressive background, and I heard you're an LA native as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Ever since adulthood, I've lived in LA.
Oh, cool.
Well, I started living in LA for about 8 years, and then I moved to New York, and then I came here to Japan.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you've lived in like the best cities in the world then.
Yeah, I'm trying, you know.
Very cool. So, did you? You said you moved to LA for work. Is that when you first started getting into CGI?
Certainly. Actually, I started off as a painter in my local town, and I did the whole painting thing, galleries, art contests and things during high school. I got a chance to go to a school called CalArts during high school, a special program that was kind of an intensive course, and that got me really kind of dedicated to doing art and making a career out of it. So my senior year, I continued to do classes at a school called Art Center, just getting mentored. And then finally, I ended up going to art school for university. In the art school, I learned basic foundation of design, sculpting, all those kind of things. After that, we got into more computer work, so Photoshop, editing, doing motion graphics, learning typography. And at some point, we started to do 3D. And when we started to do 3D, I kind of really got into it. It became kind of a video game to me. So, yeah, it was pretty fun. We had a really crazy professor who would just rush through all the lessons. He would go like 1,000 miles an hour through the curriculum, which is pretty intense and pretty thick curriculum. But I kind of liked it, and I kept trying to keep up. And then I found myself really enjoying it. Yeah, so that's kind of what sparked the beginning of working on CG and managing and producing content from about the year 2002.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, so it sounds like, and then you had experience working in LA and New York. And really, what I'm most curious about is what brought you all the way over here to Japan?
Well, that's an interesting story. So it all started, in art school, we used to love watching Japanese cartoons. It's kind of like we really respect the design. We really respect the toy design, the animation, the movies, the kind of culture. So that kind of planted a seed when I was in university. I wasn't really too into it back then. So after university, I started to work at design companies in town in Los Angeles, and kind of got to know the city and know the Hollywood standards of making commercials and producing content back then. And I wanted to explore a bit. I had my first trip to Asia in 2005 to Taiwan, and I quite enjoyed that trip. So that was another seed planted. It's a little different than Japan, but after that, I kept working, making music videos, commercials in LA. And then I wanted to kind of venture out after a while. So I decided to do a few jobs in San Diego. And then finally, I'm like, a lot of my friends, they're moving to New York to do design, and they want to see what the East Coast is like. So I decided to take a job on the East Coast with one of my mentors. He set me up with a nice project there. So I had a really good time in New York making commercials as well. And after a couple years, I felt like, you know what? Why stop here? Let's keep going. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go somewhere pretty crazy. So I just one day woke up and I was like, what should I do? So I just bought a bunch of plane tickets, and I did this whole world tour just as a leisure tour, just to kind of see what's out there. So I went to Ireland, I went to England, I went to Germany, Spain, China, and the last stop was Japan. So my last stop of my personal quick world trip was Japan. I planned to stay here for a week, completely came here and saw so many people that I kind of got afraid a little bit. So I stayed in the hotel for a few days because I didn't know what to think of like seeing like so many people crossing the street, and just it was kind of overwhelming. So that killed a few days. So then finally, when I got comfortable with the city, I extended my stay another 2 weeks actually, and traveled around Japan for that 3-week trip. And that was kind of planting a really big seed at that point. And then I went back to New York for another year. And then I just thought, this is great, but let's try, I was either going to move to London or move to Tokyo. But I was thinking like London is something that I feel I could do. So I was like, let's go the opposite way. Let's go somewhere that's a huge challenge and something very, different. So I just came here for that reason. And I've discovered a lot of good things based on that decision. So I didn't really plan to come here. It was more of a like going with my gut feeling kind of thing.
I see.
So what year did you move here?
2010.
Wow. So 10 years.
10 years. I had my 10-year Japan anniversary September 22nd this year.
Wow. Well, what a crazy year to have a Japan anniversary.
Hey, you know what? I've been through an earthquake. I've been through a pandemic. Japan is awesome. Yay.
All right. No,
I tell you one thing, like, in here, we handle disasters really good, tsunamis and stuff. I mean, I can't say I'm speaking for myself, but, I guess, I've seen a few things here so far the last 10 years.
Definitely. One, I mean, Japan is changing, but I mean, I think of the 3 people here today, I don't think any of us would have rather spent 2020 in another city. We'd probably be in lockdown right now, surrounded by mountains of toilet paper and
fighting for toilet paper. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like fist fighting
with guns.
Yeah, grappling hooks. I would have had grappling hooks.
Yeah.
I would have grappled it.
We need rope.
Yeah.
Somebody get some rope.
Oh my gosh. That's really interesting to hear. I was expecting you to say that, you came to Japan, but you went to all these other cities and then Japan was the last stop on your tour. When you went back to the States, did you get kind of like the Japan bug?
Let's see. I was in New York. So, New York is a bug in itself. That's quite a great city to have fun in. And I was having a blast. But you know what it really was? What really made it, there's 2 things that really kind of made me go for it. By the way, moving to New York, I felt like, hey, it's time to like make challenges. It's time to do crazy things. So, I've been doing commercials at that point for 10 years straight. And I got a job offer at an animation studio here in Japan to work on a cartoon series. And I was like, that's quite different than a commercial. It's a cartoon series. It's not a movie, but it's cool. Like cartoons, something consistent, something that happens like every day. We're working on the same thing for like 2 years. So I was like, that's not really what I do. I work on something for 3 months or 2 months and then go to the next fresh project. But I was just like, hey, Japan's so different. A cartoon project so different. So what the heck, let's try something completely different. Let's just experience it. I like to experience different things. So that was one of the intriguing things that happened. And then another thing is when I did my first visit, I actually took a week and went to Kyoto. And during that trip, I actually didn't plan that trip at all. I didn't have a hotel and all the hotels were booked. So I was kind of walking in this alley, this shopping alley. And one guy came to me and he's like, hey, I used to live in Detroit, and I didn't really understand the broken English. But he was trying to say like, I know a little bit about US. And I was like, oh, cool. He's a very nice person. And he's like, where are you staying? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, why don't you stay at my hotel? And I was like, okay, whatever. Cause I was pretty careless back then. Like, let's just stay wherever, I actually came here with no plan. So I booked this hotel that was actually in the shopping area and it looked like a really old place. And I just thought like, whatever. It's just like a local thing. And so he's like, dinner's at 7. Make sure you get back here at 7. I'm like, wow, interesting. There's actually rules to having dinner. I never had rules before, not since I was in, my family's house, like since before adulthood. So that, okay, cool. I'll come back at 7. So I go and do some sketches. Like I go around the city, do some sketches on my sketch pad, come back around 7. I met a new friend, brought that person there. We had dinner. I thought it was going to be a little dinner thing, but it was like a 7-course, each room, like for one meal, it's a different room, like super service situation. And I was like, wow, what is this? And I got the bill for it the next day. It was also surprising. But anyways, that night, I think I had the best sleep I've had in years. Like the bed was so comfortable. The hotel was so nice. It was all catered to me. So I'm just saying like that experience made me feel really comfortable. So it stuck with me. When I went back to New York, sometimes I would think about that night, like how nice it was. I mean, I'm pretty sure people can have a nice hotel experience, but for me, it was really nice. So that reason, and the intrigue of doing a cartoon kind of, and of course, I enjoyed Japan, the actual city, the people. And so those few things made me want to explore here and experience the kind of, different culture. So that's what did it. It's been 10 years. I only planned to be here for 1 year, but it's been 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, it happens.
So you've worked extensively on creative productions, both in Japan and of course also in Hollywood. What's the difference in working in these two markets?
That's a very good question. So since I was brought up in an art school situation, they kind of closed us off from other subjects. For instance, they didn't really focus on like, finance or something, or they didn't focus on news, like, how do you say, media and things like that. We mostly focused on like mastering our craft, philosophy, theory, how to use different materials to evoke emotions. We learned techniques like history. We learned typography. We watched our peers in the industry, other schools, other designers in the industry. We just learned only this industry. So the industry we work in LA and in New York, commercial design industry, it caters more to the artist. So I felt like we got a little more respect when we go to work. People treat us really good. We're really comfortable, and people kind of allow us to be ourselves, like protecting that character of us being free and happy, and also pushing us to do really cutting edge things, to do a lot of things, to be a really efficient designer. I feel like we have a lot of support in US or in LA and New York. I wouldn't say all of US, but like as far as my experience. So I feel the support, I feel the love from there. I'm not going to say from every company, but we get catered a little bit more in US just because the way we're trained and it's all like focused. So I actually like that, but I did want to challenge myself. And so coming here, I knew that here's going to be a little bit different. It's kind of well known that here's a little bit tougher as far as that goes. Perhaps the comfort level isn't the same. The difference is in here, it's more like, hey, we're doing this work, big business, let's be efficient. Let's get to the point. In some cases, let's not spend too much time trying to be the edgiest thing, but more like, let's spend more time just making it nice. Some of the things that we learn in LA and in New York too, and just in general, maybe Europe. I was really into art history. I studied, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, and so on from the Western point of view. And the main thing I got out of it is we learned how to do sculpture. We learned how to do measurements. We learned about the human body. We learned about lighting. We learned about 3D, so to speak. We learned how to paint, realistic. We learned how to light things to look like the material. So that education taught us to think in like with depth. I also had a really good mentor who worked at Disney, and he said, you know, we got to put the fourth dimension in there, which is like the feeling. So when you look at something, you feel it. And so when you look at a drawing or you look at an image, there's a fourth thing that you got to draw into it. So one thing I would say is we focused on that a lot. And with my training, I focused on that a lot. And when in Japan, what I can see is that they have a lot of similar things, but I feel some of the education is quite different. A lot of the artists that I've run into working here, they didn't get the full Western, you know, instruction for all of the 3D, the feeling and all that. But what they do very well, and I've seen in the museums, even for hundreds of years, is their drawings are so clear and easy to read. And I feel the differences in, you know, back in the States, we make things a little indirect. Like it's easy to read, but there's a lot more depth. There's a lot more that you got to put. They're not necessarily telling you everything. It's more like, here's something, think about it. So just the mentality is the thing that I saw that was different. Example is I would have a supervisor say, hey, you know, we need to make this look very clear, flat, and to the point. That's something that I get in here in Japan. In LA, New York, they would say, hey, you know, this is great, but, you know, it's too simple. Let's do it a little more indirect, like lead us into it more. Don't just tell us plain like that. We want an adventure. We want the audience to experience like a whole roller coaster. And here we're in Japan, they're like, yeah, you know, the roller coaster is great, but like, you know, we just want to do the drop already. We want to start in the middle of the drop, you know, of the roller coaster. And
That's
just like,
such a good analogy.
You know,
Yeah. Well, I definitely get that. I feel like, especially when you're looking at commercials made in the United States, especially, you know, recent productions, you see a lot of drama and emotion and the story. And it's like you're watching a short film.
Absolutely.
But in Japan, it's just like, here's the product. Here's how much it is. Here's where you can buy it.
Yeah.
Now on sale.
You know what? Hey, I'm not mad at that. You know, after living here 10 years, I can understand now. I mean, people are busy. People are active. And
when they're bombarded with all this stuff, you know, the inundation of marketing and promotion.
How are you going to reach somebody when they're crossing the street with 10,000 other people and you need to sell something? And mind you, there's 100 other companies getting, maybe more, trying to get that same attention right at that moment. What are you going to do? You're going to tell a story, or are you going to just slap them in the face with like, boom, here's some yogurt. Or boom, you know, here's some...
Boom, yogurt.
Yeah,
Snap
yogurt.
likes it. Arashi likes it too. Buy now.
Exactly. Oh, it's crazy. Like for the commercials, we would do like 5-second ending bumpers, you know, like da 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 da. Here they're like blah, 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 bing, done. Have you ever watched TV? Have you seen that?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, goodness. The logo comes on for like not even a whole second.
Oh,
but that's
yeah.
all you need, you know. That's
It's
all
so
you need
quick.
in here.
No, that's a really good juxtaposition too.
They teach us in US like, hey, don't rush the animation, you know, like let it breathe, you know, like ease in and ease out, like give an animation curve. Here they're like, all right, forget the curve. We're gonna go with a straight, like linear line, like it shows it's gone, and like I'm like, really? Is that all we have to do?
Yeah,
Is that-
and that's like it's really like the difference between, you know, in the United States it's like, you know, let's have a wine tasting. In Japan it's like, nah, let's just mainline some vodka. Get to the point.
Hey, you know what? That's not far off. I mean, you know, just get to the point. You know, it's pretty well accepted to, I mean, speaking of vodka or drinking, it's pretty acceptable to just get to the point. You know, here after work, people just go straight to drinking. Like,
Yep.
A lot of people anyways. Yeah.
It's
That's
true.
like that. Maybe that has something to do with the difference in drinking cultures. Like, especially when you're talking about like, you know, business drinking, like in the United States, you actually have to be kind of careful. You don't want to make people think you're an alcoholic, but in Japan, it's just
So.
well, how many beers can you slam? Let's find out.
It's quite opposite. I really feel that way. Like, hey, hey, in US, I'd be like, you know what? Let me just be, you know, keep my composure. I'll have a beer. Don't want to get tipsy. Don't want to say the wrong thing. Okay, in here, quite opposite. the supervisor comes up like, hey, it's beer o'clock right now. And everybody like, how many can you drink? How many can you drink? I can drink 10. I can drink 15. Let's have a beer drinking contest. I'm like, we're all in suits and like, this is supposed to be proper, but
I mean, so
it's like a drinking uniform.
Now I have to segue into this because you came to Japan in 2010 after a pretty extensive professional career. So what can you tell us? Like, do you remember your first proper Japanese drinkathon?
Ooh, interesting. Okay, I can tell you that. Oh gosh, this is really, it's kind of an embarrassing story. So I came in and I went to a studio called Polygon, and the owner or the president of the studio, he was, I didn't know anyone in there except for a couple people that I met, my new coworkers. But that company had about 300 people in there at the time. And we worked the first week, mostly training, mostly like getting to know like the tools, meeting the teams, etc., getting to know the project. I thought it was really fun. But on Friday, one of the producers was like, "Hey, we do this every Friday, 6 p.m. We go to this like area in the studio where the kitchen is, and we all just we pitch in some cash and we just buy a bunch of drinks and we just have a good time. Fridays at the end of work." So the first version of that, I do believe it was called Beer O'Clock. The first version of Beer O'Clock. I was there. I was having a great time. I felt so happy to just be here. It was like the first time I lived in another country. It's like an extended vacation, like really extended. So I felt like, yeah, there's no cares, So we're having fun. I'm drinking some beers, meeting everybody, and I meet this guy who's passing out these stuffed animals. And I'm like, okay, what are these stuffed animals? Like, what the hell is this? And then the guy's just like, this just made us $8 million. And I'm like, oh, cool. Oh, yeah, you must be the president. Oops. Like, hi. Yeah, I was like that. I was super aggressive. And I was just like dissing the president's thing. And like, he's like, yo, like, bro, like, this little animal you're holding is like, that's
just
like
paid
cash
your whole
money.
salary for 2 years.
Yes. So like, I'm like, cool. All right. So that was one of my first experience drinking drinkathons. I actually that night we ended up drinking. We ended up going karaoke. My first karaoke with like 20 people. It was great.
That's an experience.
So fun. I mean, everybody was getting crazy loud, excited. I did a few songs on there. I didn't know that you could do rap. I mean, but Japan has like rap karaoke, which is so fun. So I was having a good time. That's my first drinkathon.
It's that's a good, that's a great introduction, right? And
it was.
It's such a gap though between the energy that you get from like a drinking session in Tokyo versus, LA or New York. It's just totally different gears. I don't think people realize just how different it is. 'Cause I mean, you're drinking the same booze. You might even be drinking the same amount, but the vibe is totally different.
The vibe is different, yeah. I can compare like 4 cities actually. I can compare more than that, but LA is more, hey, we're gonna go out, we're gonna go to eat at this restaurant. We found this cool restaurant. Let's all meet there. Have some dinner, talk. It's kind of more dim lighting in LA. Then let's go to the club. This is my early 20s. It's like, okay, let's go. We're going to have a few drinks, but we got to manage it. We got to drive, we got to have someone to drive us, or we got to figure out, like, it wasn't as carefree, so to speak.
Yeah, you have to be like a logistics professional, right?
Yes,
and you go all these different places.
You got to pull out an Excel sheet and like write a proposal on how to go out on Friday night. And you got to get it all done before like everything's closing at 1:30 back then.
Wow.
Or midnight. So it's like between 9 to midnight, this is my proposal to get everyone to get together. And then we're going to drive there. We're going to park. We're going to like be in traffic. But New York was a little bit more similar to here. Quite a bit more random though. New York was more like, hey, you just meet people all the time. People talk in New York all the time to each other, like on the street.
They never stop talking. Actually, they're talking right now.
They're talking right now. Yeah. Then someone texts like, hey, this is a party over here. So whoever you're with, you're like, let's just walk over there. Let's go to this party. So you go to the party or you go to the bar where people are, have a couple of drinks, and then another person's like, we're over here. We're going to go over there. And then even our own group, like, let's just go there. We go there. We run into someone. So you're going to just organically flow through like 4 or 5 different spots in New York. It's really fun.
It's like a nomadic experience.
It is a nomadic experience, like at least 4 or 5 times a week. You know,
Yeah.
it's awesome. It's awesome. Yes, you just.
I heard about this oasis.
Exactly. And there was always those like groups are like, this is called the danger party. Like, shh. You're lucky to be on this list. Shh. We'll reveal the location. And like those were always kind of silly, but like kind of mysterious and fun. My favorite was like floor parties where a whole apartment complex would agree that floor number 2, everyone's gonna make a party so you can hop through everyone's place. Those are the best. Those are the best.
That's crazy. It's almost
fun.
like a golden guy on a floor of an apartment block.
Yeah, it's like, you know, just people were like, yo, let's make a whole floor party, and this gets packed and you just hop around and like it's a wild time. Now Tokyo is a little bit different. You can do that experience here. It's not as organic. People plan things. The way it goes here is mostly like, hey, let's meet at this restaurant that's we're going to spend a certain amount of money to buy a 90-minute package of all you can drink, or, you know, all you can eat and drink, called a nomikai. So we're all there. I mean, everything's kind of paid for and taken care of, and you're just there with a group, and you're just going, you know, as hard as you want on the drinks and on the food for a certain period of time. And then there can be something that happens after that, but it's a little more planned, a little more organized, a little more private.
Oh, and it's very group oriented. Like you mentioned that organic thing. Like I'm sure like people are breaking off and people are joining. In Japan, you start and finish with the same group.
Right.
Minus whoever passed out.
Yeah. Minus whoever passed out. Yeah. There's always someone.
Casualties.
There's always someone that vanishes.
Party foul!
Yeah.
I think, Jesse, you're the first guest who has really properly given us a proper explanation and explained the differences in drinking between these 3 cities.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm proud to, have observed carefully. Yeah. Consider me a researcher.
Yeah.
Anthropologist.
Yes. Modern anthropologist. Yes.
You're now listening to Tokyo Wave.
So you've also worked with top brands and media franchises. Have you faced any big challenges on these projects? Because I mean, you've worked with like Star Wars and like massive media franchises.
Yeah, there's a few different things that happen working with these big brands. They have a lot at stake when they put something out. So, for example, working on a car commercial, they want to sell cars, right? So they need people to buy cars around, holiday time or something, so there's a huge push.
It's Christmas, put a bow on it.
It's Christmas, put a bow on it, so we're going to make this really amazing animation featuring this car. And so that's a challenge, a creative challenge there. And obviously these kind of companies are very picky. So, every little pixel counts, put it that way. They're going to check every pixel. You gotta make sure that whatever you're making is worth someone seeing that and saying, I want to buy that. So it's that's a challenge. That's a basic design challenge. So there's different kind of clients. There's banks, there's automotive, there's fashion, there's food, there's tech, there's hardware. I mean, we could talk about that, how many different kinds of clients there are, but every client's a challenge. That's why I love what I do, because it's always an adventure. So let's talk about like a more creative client that's purely creative. So let's say, for instance, Star Wars, where it's all about storytelling and it's all about imagination. I learned really quick that the reason why the company is called Industrial Light and Magic is because they're really good at lighting. So I didn't really know that before, but they're really picky about how things are lit and how lighting tells a story. And so for the artistic challenge, it was like a re-education for me. It's like going to art school again, but like working on a 2-year project. And so all these gurus, like one of the guys who invented Photoshop is one of their staffs. He comes and, we're getting feedback from these like legends, and so it's a really cutting edge, and it's a huge group effort, and that's a huge challenge because you have to show up, and you have to learn quickly, and you have to deliver. It's a huge challenge. Sometimes, I do all-nighters, or I'll work on the weekends, but I have to always deliver. So that's my guarantee. So I honestly look at art and design as like the same way I look at it as an athlete. So I feel like it's an emotional athlete. That's what we are. We gotta put ourselves on the line, and we gotta get beat up. We gotta get criticized. This color isn't good. This shape isn't good. What were you thinking here? Is this intentional? Blah blah blah. We got to be strong enough to like take that and inform it into something good for our clients. And so that's the challenge. It's a good challenge. I feel like it's always training, always improving. It's something that never gets complete, but you keep on doing it. And yeah, it's really fun. So these are good challenges. I like to be challenged. So I faced a lot of big challenges actually.
So,
big and small.
I don't know if you want to answer this, but I thought of this hearing what you just said.
Yeah.
What's the most savage but constructive criticism that you've ever received?
Savage.
But constructive, like you heard it and it hurt you, and it really hurt you deep down inside. But
yeah.
That made you better.
Oh goodness. I don't know if it made me better. So I got the harshest criticism I ever got. And then it goes way back. It goes back like maybe 20 years ago. One of my mentors was like, "Hey, Jesse, you're really good at so many things. You think you're like this good, but actually you're like a laser. You can only do one. You may be good at a lot of stuff, but you can only do one thing at a time. Like you can't just do them all. So that's your thing. Like you're a laser. So like you can only focus here." And I was like, I kind of took that in a bad way. Like, hey, because I wasn't trying to be a laser. I was trying to be like, like a super like crazy, I don't know, like super spread out, like super Eon ray or something, But he's like, yeah, you're a laser. Like, even if you don't want to be, that's what you are. I was like, okay, that's fine. And then I started to think about that, and I tried not to be that. But after a while, I was like, you know what? He's kind of right. If you put me anywhere, like we're going to make it like so good, but it'll take some time. And then I just, that was a savage criticism, but also I kind of embraced it, and I made my laser better, put it that way. But yeah, that's pretty much the only criticism that really hit me. Like I'm pretty sensitive, but at the same time, like I'm accustomed to, professional work. So it's not something that is a surprise when I get criticism, but that kind of like overall criticism was pretty savage, I think, from him.
Yeah, who says that? You're a laser.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is that a compliment? Or?
Fucking Star Trek?
I'm a walking laser, man.
I'm gonna shoot you in the face with my laser. See how you like it then.
No, but that's very interesting. I mean, I think all of us at this table are creatives. But as you said, we have to. It's a struggle because for me myself as well, I want to do so many different things. But on paper, you have to kind of have one thing that everybody knows you for, that you can get work for. But yeah, I know it's so tempting and addictive to dive into new stuff, right?
It's addictive for sure. I mean, I personally like to try to learn a new skill every year, and so far I've been able to do that. Not necessarily learning it deeply, but knowing a bit about it, experiencing a bit about it, and knowing what it's about. It's just part of who I am. I try to learn something new every year. I just want to experience more things, put it that way.
So did you learn a new skill this year?
I absolutely did. I learned something that I've been doing a lot of CGI. I've been doing a lot of post-production, just living on the, PC. This year, I'm deep diving into editing, into producing shows with actual people, not just like, animation characters, teamwork, team building, management, putting myself out there a lot more, more off the box and more in, more organizing projects, etc. So, Yeah, I've learned quite a few skills this year. It's been, this year has been kind of interesting as a lot of people are at home because of the pandemic. But for me, I took that as opportunity to learn more. I mean, studying language, studying different kind of courses like storyboarding course, again, refreshing that, learning live streaming, etc. So, and all, my creative core is still there. So that just adds to I guess you can say the super laser. So that's something that's so new, and I'm pretty happy with how things are going this year. It's definitely has not been a wasted year at all.
That's great. So you've also worked on music videos that went on to win awards, including 2 MTV VMAs. And you've also worked on videos that won Emmys. You've won 2 Emmys. What was that like? Did you get to go to the award ceremonies? What was that like?
Well, hey, if I was a A-list actor, I would go up and give a nice little speech, thank my parents, thank my dog, all that stuff. But we got a little, we got passed out an envelope and it said, "Hey, congratulations, you got an Emmy." We got a certificate, it's like right there with my diploma, like it's just a little paper. And that's fine with me. I mean, hey, but the actual studio owners, because I worked for studios at those times, they're the ones that get to go and accept the actual trophy and they put it in their studio. So one day I'll do that. But right now I just got certificates. And those are just fine, with me.
But so you mentioned that. So do you have a dream of one day opening your own studio?
I have a few projects that I want to make. So I'm really interested in health and wellness, and I'm really interested in doing consulting for that. There's a few things I want to make. I really want to make a CG studio which we tell a different narrative than our typical 3-act script. So there's a couple ideas I have about that. That's one of the things. And maybe I can make something not a studio, but work with a lot of companies to do one of my visions or a few of my visions. So that's more about what I'm thinking these days than actually making a brick and mortar studio. That's an option as a headquarters, but I do feel like going forward, it'll be something where I'm collaborating with a lot of different businesses instead of housing a concentrated thing. So yeah, it's a little bit
like a
different.
creative group of sorts.
Definitely a creative group. Yeah. The creative group is the core. And if there's a studio here and there that supports the business, that could be one thing. That's kind of the idea that I'm having these days.
So, because of the pandemic, going between countries is, as we know, extremely complicated and stressful. Have you been back to the U.S. recently? And how has the pandemic changed your work schedule?
So I haven't been back to the U.S. I went to the U.S. this year, actually, in January. And I took a trip to the U.K., to Germany. And I came back in early February, right before all of the interesting things started to happen, so to speak. And I've just been here the whole time, and I'm not used to that, actually. I'm used to traveling every 2 months somewhere in Asia, or, traveling over in Europe, or, I've been traveling a lot just before. The last 2 years, I've been traveling a lot. I used to feel like the airplane was my second room, kind of like. So no, I haven't been back. I plan to travel a lot once things calm down, though. I'm going to have a little revenge tour, a little revenge travel. That's going to happen.
Jesse's Revenge coming soon.
How has the pandemic changed my work schedule? Well, that's an interesting question because it hasn't changed anything for me. I've been working from home. Before recently, I've been working from home like 14 months. When the pandemic hit and people were like, "I'm working from home," I'm like, well, I had accumulated already, 4 computers. I got all my gear. I'm working for doing this and that for these companies. I had my whole home studio already going, at least from early last year or mid last year. So nothing changed. I was like, oh, I guess people are joining my style. That's kind of how I felt. I'm like, oh, welcome to the danger zone, welcome to my reality. That's kind of how I felt. I mean, I know that's not funny for a lot of people, but for me, I'm like, oh, people are catching up. I see.
Well, it's funny, like a lot of companies are already on this remote work and it's totally normal, especially for tech companies. But people who are outside of the industry and they're not used to working from home or, taking their work home, it's been this, total, trial by fire for them. But I feel like a lot of people who are already in the digital economy and a lot of people who are doing things like, working on these sort of productions, it's just like, oh, well, guess I don't have to go to the studio anymore. Cool.
What's funny about that? A lot of artists, we enjoy the studio. It depends on the studio, obviously. Like all studios are not created equal, but some are very fun. Some are very So a lot of artists are pretty happy to work from home in their own space where they're comfortable, I don't know what the ratio, if it's 50-50 like it, and 50% don't like it. But for me personally, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like I talked to a few friends. They're like, oh, this is a dream. Like, goodness, I'm so glad I get to work from home. This is what we all wanted. We wanted to have our own gear and work from home. Like that's a step up. That's a step up, actually. I hear stories, of course, from, different, walks of life where it doesn't make sense. Like, oh, I have family at home and I have to be with kids and work at the same time. And that obviously looks something like, a lot of people like to go out. They like to dress up. They like to get out of the house. It's pretty normal. So, for me personally though, like I'm just, it's no change. That's just me. I know not everybody's like that, but for me, it was pretty simple situation.
Awesome. So I also saw that you did the lighting for the trailer for Sonic the Movie. And what a crazy thing. I remember, I think we talked about this, but, fans made a big stink about the original character design. I know the studio actually went back to the drawing board and changed it. Did you hear anything about that? Were you any way involved in it?
Yeah, I was in the middle of all that. It was pretty fun, pretty funny. I joined the project last year. Right before that such and such hit the fan. So I was a lighting artist and amongst a few other lighting artists. So our job is to go from a wireframe animation to what you see on the screen, right? So we get the animations, we get the characters, already designed, already acted out. And our job is simply to light it, make it look good, make it match, and just, process the image and put it out, right? So I understand what was going on. So there's a lot of challenges to lighting and doing materials like furs and like eyes and like teeth and faces, et cetera, There's a lot that goes into how the movement works, et cetera, like physics, So from my understanding, the design was kind of created to be a little bit logical. I definitely like the latter design better. A funny story about that, I was working primarily with the Japan side of things, which is a company affiliated with Sega. So they obviously have the original design. They designed it, So, but we had another studio create the new design, which was a little bit more logical and to this physical world. For instance, Sonic has eyes that are kind of impossible in the drawing. It's like a double eye, but it's like one eye, but it has this little like thing in the middle. It didn't look good on film. It looks good for like a one angle drawing, but like in 3D, it didn't make sense. So I can see why the original design was made to be logical. It kind of looked like an old dirty bastard Sonic. And we were laughing at it a lot.
Oh,
we're
man,
like,
I want to make a meme. OTB's to Sonic.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. We're like, yo, like, what is this? Like, but it's too realistic. But anyways, I was happy to just work on the project. I was like, hey, let's light up this old dirty bastard Sonic. Like, oh man, I was having a good time. I was like, this guy looks weird, but like, I'm having a great time. I love Sonic. I used to play it. That was my first video game. Like before I got a Super Nintendo, I was
Watch
playing.
Dirt McGirt get all those rings.
Exactly. It was good. I was like, my dream come true. Sonic, on the Sonic project.
Yeah, I'm a huge Sega fan. I'm one of the few people who still harps on about the Dreamcast. You remember the Dreamcast?
Oh, Dreamcast was
last for like
awesome.
2 3 years?
NBA 2K, the original one. I used to love that.
Oh,
with
that was a good
Iverson
game.
and everything, Yeah. Those controllers were cool, huh?
Oh, yes.
My friend just bought a Dreamcast. He's buying all these vintage game consoles, and I demanded that if you're going to buy all these vintage game consoles, you must buy a Dreamcast. I demand it, and he did it.
Oh, cool. I didn't know they sell them still. Was it a vintage? Was it
Oh,
like
you just got to find them out there, right?
Oh,
I mean,
goodness.
at the used video game stores.
I wonder how those polygon levels hold up to this day. Does it still look good, or
No,
are
so-
we talking about big boxes?
So my friend, he's also creative, super nerdy, and he actually found a place that reverse engineers the motherboard,
What?
and you can solder this thing on that outputs like native HDMI.
Oh,
And so Dreamcast in 4K.
oh gosh.
Apparently it looks pretty cool.
So you're talking about big boxes with pictures on them in 4K, moving.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Wait, do you guys remember the weirdest Dreamcast game?
Oh,
Ooh, that's a loaded question. There were a lot of weird ones.
I don't
You're
even-
talking about Seaman?
Yes,
Oh,
Seaman.
that game was so
goodness.
weird.
Did you guys have that game?
Yes.
Dude, I rented that game, and I remember my parents were like disturbed the fact that that game existed.
oh shit.
I mean,
It kind of looks like the old Sonic.
like it's literally like I think the guy who created the game is the face of the
I
Seaman
think
or
so,
whatever.
yeah.
And you can talk to him, right?
Yeah.
And
And he says like these nasty things.
it's nasty, weird shit. And I just remember playing that and like my mom like watching me play it and just totally freaked out. Like what the
I would freak out too. I mean, look at that. That's just weird.
Oh yeah.
But I kind of want to play it now.
Oh, it's worth it, man. It's
I know a guy who's got a Dreamcast that outputs full HDMI. So,
Oh man, that's
I'll have
cool.
to do
Let's have a video game party.
all right,
Over there.
You're talking about how the old video games are so boxy, and I don't think a lot of people realize just how much work goes into CG production and how much it's developed over the past 20 years, even 10 years, even the last few years. How do you manage the immense amount of data and complex tools that you have to understand in order to do your work?
Well, that's why we got really nice software companies that make nice 3D software. And we also have programmers who make things super like compressed. So every year or two, the technology like doubles in speed. That don't take me on the record for that. But we always get more power as the technology gets more compressed into smaller spaces, more power, et cetera, et cetera. So I've seen it go from before there was boxes to now we have, you can say photorealistic, even though it's photorealistic now, in a few years, you'll look back and be like, oh, that looks 3D, because in a few years, it'll be even more realistic, right? So I've seen that, and I've seen our resolutions get higher. I've seen the anti-aliasing. If you don't know what that is, that's when you see an edge of something that's smooth or it's jagged. So I've seen our anti-aliasing getting better, and things like real time. So things are happening in real time. They don't need to be pre-processed. So things are dynamically happening. It's just been getting better and better and better. With VR, AR, Unreal Engine, Unity, there's a lot of stuff out there, but the real-time dynamic CG is it's kind of what I'm seeing now. Yeah, it's amazing.
You mentioned VR and AR. Are you doing anything with that right now?
I'm not doing that right now, but I used to work for a company that we were doing VR for car companies. And what we did was we would get the car, we would go to the manufacturer, like say, for instance, we go to Honda headquarters to the design team. They're going to give us one of their parts of the car or one car that they want to do some promoting advertising for. So we'll get the car, we'll get the 3D files, we'll style it up, we'll do the materials, and then we'll create a real-time experience, photoreal car. And we used to create these rooms that have projectors, these really high-level projectors, and you wear 3D glasses, stereoscopic glasses, and you can see the car, and you can just look at it and choose the materials and walk around it, see how big it is, et cetera, et cetera. Even experience driving it. And I used to work on that. That was a few years ago. That was one experience with VR that I've had. I've been doing more AR stuff lately. So some of the filters that you would see on Instagram or something like that, I was making those for a little while. Yeah, so that's more light stuff. It's not super photorealistic. It's super, super light.
Bunny ears.
Bunny ears, I think I did a James Harden beard when it was really popular. It was kind of silly. I had one really pretty girl try the James Harden beard. It wasn't cool, but, yeah, just having some fun with that. But going forward, though, there's a lot of things like virtual production and remote production that we would do. Where we produce stuff with real-time backgrounds, with including CGI and live shooting. So that's kind of starting to become a normalized thing. You can see an example on Mandalorian, the show Mandalorian, where they're shooting actors in costume, but the backgrounds are completely like LED screens with real-time CG behind it. And
I saw a YouTube video on that.
Yeah, it's pretty
How they
sweet,
did
right?
it. Oh my gosh, so cool. I mean, we have a CGI pro with us right now. I got to ask you, Jesse, CG is in like almost everything now, and there's really bad and then there's really good CG. Could you maybe give us and our listeners some examples of movies or video games that we got to check out? Like the CG is just mind-blowing, amazing. It's hard for some people to really tell, what's good and what's bad. And then maybe if you had some examples of just like terrible CG that you've seen.
Okay. Well, okay. So let me just start by saying you can tell pretty bad CG off really quick based on lighting. So one thing is like when you film something, you got lights, you got the lighting team, you have actors, you have a camera, you have physics, you have real world physics going on. But when you add CG to it, and you don't consider matching that lighting, it immediately is obvious. There's a lot of things too with color correction where if it's not matching, it just pops out. You can look at Matrix Reloaded fight scenes where the shadows of the CG guys don't match the darkness of the shadows of the live action guys, and it just pops out, like stuff like that. If you look at older stuff, you'll see some bad CG. So good CG. If you've seen some of Christopher Nolan stuff, he'll have stuff in his movies that are really amazing, like beautiful art, right? So Interstellar, that kind of stuff. So, but a lot of CG that's really good, you don't see. It's called invisible effects. Like, did you know Fast and Furious had so much CG in it and so much visual effects in it, but it looks like a regular film of people driving. It looks like completely shot, but if a car's trying to beat a train and the train hits a bunch of stuff and there's like a huge disaster, like this stuff is all CG as well. So I guess it varies. Obviously you have your Lord of the Rings, you have your Peter Jackson films, you have your Star Wars. I really liked the last Star Wars. I thought it was beautiful. People are questionable about the story and all that, but like just the CG was amazing. Just look at one shot of the laser guns, like how much was put into it, how they advanced what a laser gun shot is, with the bounce light affecting the atmosphere, smoke around it. And it's just really crazy stuff. And I got a chance to work on some of those kind of things. And I know how hard it is to do that and make the lighting make sense when it comes to like space battles and things like that. So obviously you can say Star Wars is good CG. If you want to look at it a little different way, you can say Disney's Lion King is really good CG, obviously, right? Like they went for the photoreal thing. Photoreal's cool, but a lot of people criticize that it should have held a kind of original design, like more cartoony, but photoreal, like hyper real, but they went for the photoreal, right? So for me personally, I can see good CG in different aspects rather than, a lot of movies honestly have good and bad CG in it at the same time. They'll have 10 shots that are just bad and like 90 shots that are amazing. So yeah, you can.
Does that like ruin some movies for you?
You know what's funny about that? Movies are already ruined for me. I don't see a movie. I see like, oh, that was like 10 artists that made that little thing there. And oh, that was that must have been a hassle to do that. Or, oh, wow, that person is like posing like that. Wow, I wonder how long it took them to get into that pose. I'm not even thinking about the movie,
Wow.
So, but what I think more about is the script, the story. What are they trying to say, and how are they executing it, or how was a camera move, or how good did that feel? Like one movie I really liked was Black Panther. Not just because Black Panther or anything like that. The actual movie had really good music and it had really good flowing camera moves. It was just a smooth movie, and I just thought it was cool. So that was a complete design package, like all consistently good. But then I look at things like, what was it? Infinity War? Was that the one? Avengers? That one had a lot of stories going on at once, but it was jumping all over the place. Although good CG, it wasn't as smooth as that movie. Obviously, when you do a movie with a bunch of heroes, it can't be smooth. You got to tell a million stories at once. So that's a challenge in itself. You can admire that too, So yeah.
I like the analogy you gave, and that, if it's invisible and we can't see it, then it's really good.
Absolutely.
And mentioning Nolan, I saw Tenet recently.
Oh yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah, and obviously, except for the reverse effect and all the other scenes, me and my friend watching it, we're not really thinking, okay, what's CG, what's not CG. We're just seeing the movie. So I guess that's really good CG then, right?
Really good, yeah. I mean, come on, like if you're gonna
Mission accomplished.
film a whole like portion of the movie with reverse / going forward / reverse. This is really like, there's people that, they make their mark on the film industry, right? They'll come up with a new camera shot, and then that camera shot's very useful to tell a story. And then after that, the next generation will all be using that camera shot, right? So they add into it. And then, this guy, he's trying to add more stuff, it seems like, every time he makes a new movie. So now we're doing reverse, going forward in time and things like that. And he's making it look seamless. It's cool, I appreciate when people take a risk and make new art, despite just making something that's basic just to please investors or whatever. Obviously, we all do that too. But, when you see something like that, I personally like, wow, that's cool. And that's something like, I respect that. I want to make something like that. I want to make something like really innovative too. So I would say that's great CG,
Right on. Yeah, no, Tenet was the first movie I've seen in a while where I think the whole time I was just like, holy shit.
It's the first time in a while where you're just feeling like, oh, it's really tense, right?
It was so tense.
Yeah.
The sound in that movie too.
Sound was great.
Oh my, the gunshots. People in the theaters in Japan, Japanese are so quiet while they're watching movies. In the States, in New York, I remember I saw some movies there, and the audience is so interactive. Tenet was the first time in Japan where I saw Japanese people jumping because the sounds of the bullets was scaring the shit out of everyone. Like, it was like there was like gunfire.
They're shooting up the movie theater.
Yeah, it felt like that.
Red team go.
It was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Trippy.
Jesse,
Yes.
you have a resume that I'm sure lots of people are very envious of, and I'm sure you have some great outlooks on where the industry is headed. What do you think the outlook is for the CG industry over the next 5 to 10 years? What are you the most excited about? And also, do you have any advice for people who are looking to get into the business?
So basically, what I can see now is that we've gone from exclusive group of people who decided to do art school and blah, blah, blah. We get to do this digital stuff, right? Now I see like, oh, it's just normal. Hey, you grow up, you should be a good editor. You should be a good creator. It's kind of a new thing. It's like a normal thing. Like, you grow up, you lift weights, you grow up, you go to PE class, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's like, oh, you grow up, oh, you should be able to make your own videos or something, or you should be able to create something with the computer. It's quite normal now. And I see mass population just making stuff, for themselves. And where's the industry headed? Well, hey, if they're making videos now, hey, maybe they'll be making CG like pretty soon by themselves as well. And I see a couple things. I see a layer where people are making stuff which will get to a certain level of quality. It seems like a lot of individuals are empowered to make stuff, but there's also the other side of it where a collaboration is happening, where there's a studio with 1,000 artists or something like that. And how much better can things get? But I do see video games getting really big. I do see VR, AR coming in. I also see like applicable CG happening with like medical education, that kind of thing. So I see it just keep on expanding. It's going to keep on moving and expanding to other areas, even besides entertainment. It's going to become normal. That's my outlook on it. And for people who's trying to get into business with that, there's a lot of opportunity to reach, like I was saying before, 10,000 people crossing the street. How are you going to reach one person or whatever, grab a few thousand of them? Well, there's going to be a new way to do that with CG, somehow. And that'll all show itself. It'll show itself as it comes along. And people will be creative, come up with different things. Obviously, software companies and tech companies, they're going to invent new things as well. So I can just say, just jump on it, be creative and go for it.
Awesome. So one kind of canned question we always ask our guests, but this one we have high expectations for. Do you have any funny anecdotes to share with us?
Funny anecdotes?
Living in Japan, weird experiences,
I had a really
crazy moments.
Okay, I had a bad experience. It was a good experience and a bad experience at the same time. And it's a little bit gross, but I'll tell you anyways. Back to one of my first drinking situations in Japan. Now, I've never experienced this in U.S. I've experienced like keg stands in U.S. I've experienced beer pong. I've done that kind of stuff. I went to college, but Japan, so here we go. We're at one of these dinners. It was a kind of a team dinner for our animation studio. And we're just drinking, having pitchers of beer. We're sharing the pitchers, pouring glasses, right, as usual. And one of the producers is like, "Oh, Jesse, I heard you can drink a lot of beer." I'm like, "Yeah, you know me, He's like, "Oh, can you drink this pitcher of beer?" I was like, "Let's both stand up here and drink a pitcher of beer in front of everyone, and whoever finishes first wins," or something like that. It was just like, one of those challenges where I'm like, easy. So I did it. I won, no problem. And then, it sounds great, right? But if you drink a pitcher of beer, you're going to be pretty buzzed, like at the very least, a little irrational in your decision making, right? So he's like, "Wow, you beat me. All right. So next, do you think you can beat so-and-so?" I was like, "Yeah, of course. That person can't beat me. Like, what? So I'm like, okay. So he brings out another pitcher, and I'm talking like a full 2 liters or something. Like these are like serious pitchers. It wasn't like a little like
I was
squirt
thinking,
bottle.
I was going to ask you how big the picture was.
You can see me right now. I'm not that big,
Yeah.
So I was thinking 2 things at the time. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna win again and just show them like, hey, this is kind of fun to win this kind of competition.
This is
It's
how
like,
the masters do it.
it's kind of like having fun being silly, like, so we're doing the next round, and I was thinking as I was drinking it, I'm like, yeah, this is easy, but isn't it physically impossible to fit this much liquid in one body? Like my stomach doesn't even fit that much liquid. Like, how is this happening? So yeah, I finished and I won, but then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and like, right after this. But it just came out like all out.
Oh shit.
Over the whole table, over everyone's face.
Gross.
And it was my birthday. So it was weird. It was like, happy birthday, but like they just got all like spewed on.
Happy
suckers.
Oh man.
That's my Japan
present to
drinking
you.
story. Yeah, like I'm talking a table full of like 15 people or more, like just destroyed. Like I
You've
destroyed
heard
the
about
whole
mic
table.
dropping, but have you ever been vomited on?
Yes,
Projectile.
that's the laser I want to be.
More like a shotgun.
After that, I learned from that, like, hey, just do kickstands. It's safer.
Keep it to one picture. You were good. You were good
Sometimes
after
I
the
don't-
first one.
Sometimes
yeah.
I don't know when to stop. Yeah, that's it. That's my anecdote.
Cool. And I guess to wrap it up, Jesse, is there anything that you want to promote or push out to our listeners?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been doing recently is consulting for different kinds of businesses for their marketing, branding, and as far as their content. I've created some courses. These days, a lot of people for their business, they want to make courses. They want to make 10 lesson courses. Education is really huge now, digital education. So being that I'm pretty savvy in creating video content, whether it's commercials and different levels of lengths of content, now I can see a lot of clients coming in they want to make a course. And, so that's one thing that I'm promoting is consulting. So I consult these companies. We make courses. I do brand consulting. I have a team of people that I work with because a lot of people are doing digital business now. So look out for some of my stuff in the future.
Cool. Is there any kind of like Instagram account or Twitter that people can follow you on to see this kind of content and keep up with what you're working on?
I would say just hold off for that.
Okay.
We're doing a big push beginning of January 2021. So we'll do a marketing push at that point. At this point, it's quite organic, but we got some big plans for the next coming year. I'll keep everyone posted.
All right. We'll be sure to share that on our social media for our listeners.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So again, Jesse, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's been so fun. Look forward to, hanging out with you guys again and talking about some crazy stories out here.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Picture number 3.
Hey, let's have a picture contest, next time.
Let's do it.
we could be like 3 lasers.
Oh, let's just face the outer, face outside.
Yeah.
Let's social distance on that
No,
one.
we
yeah?
can cross the Rubicon. We can go beyond the threshold of gross into hilarious.
Yeah.
If we can accomplish that, then yeah.
I think we should pre-drink and then do the picture in that case.
Yeah, it's like a new kind of stand-up comedy. It's like performance art.
It's definitely
Maybe we
art.
should drink like different colors of liquor.
Ooh.
Ooh.
All right, so now that we've grossed everybody out,
What's wrong with vomit painting, man? It's a new material.
Vomit painting.
Natural. Nah.
yuck.
Can we end on a more less disgusting note?
I'd like to thank my mom.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's one person who inspired you?
Okay, so it's kind of a sad story. I'm from Los Angeles, and I used to play basketball. So my favorite hero ever was Kobe Bryant. Not pretty much on the court, but the guy, he had championships and he actually got an Oscar. So here we are, basketball player and then making animations, working with my old design company to make these animations actually.
Wow.
So to me, that was my main hero growing up. And yeah, I always wanted to be like an artist version of that, So that's my main hero.
Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
What a legend.
Legend, right? Yeah. I can't speak for off the court, but just on a professional side, I always wanted to be like that. So, yeah,
On the court.
on the court.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no dispute there.
Yeah.
No lawsuits have happened about his on the court performance.
Personal stuff is their thing, but the product that he delivered I just really liked it. Yeah. So
Again, thank you so much for joining.
thank you very much.
Hey, listeners, that's right. You listener right there.
Who do you think should be our next guest on Tokyo Wave? Let us know. Drop us a line at wave@tokyowave.jp.
We hope you enjoyed Tokyo Wave.
If you haven't already, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Join us again next week on Tokyo Wave.